vote next week. It is very important. I know that we want to talk about justice, which I will address it in a moment, but you cannot establish justice unless you show up at the polls and express your ways, because it is one form of upholding justice. And if you don't understand that, then we don't understand the value of justice. Now, speaking of justice, brothers and sisters, justice is not a fancy issue. Again, justice is not a fancy issue, nor it is an easy subject to deal with. It is one of the most challenging and serious issues to understand and to uphold. It is a difficult issue to deal with. It is easy to recite ayat and ahadith and even to reflect on the history of and the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. However, to talk about justice and live up to justice is very, very challenging. The easiest way of getting justice is getting justice for yourself. That's the easiest and lowest form of justice. When you ask something for you. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He says in the Quran, justice is to challenge yourself. Justice is to be willing to give up relationships. Justice is to be willing to challenge yourself, your bias. Justice is if you're willing to give up privilege and challenge people with the social status and economic status to establish justice. Justice is not the absence of injustice, but it is the presence of kindness, of faith and peace in communities. Justice is related to our faith. It is a matter of iman. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu kunu qawwamina lillah shuhada'a bil qist. It's not easy. The Prophet ﷺ chose justice and conviction over convenience. When he started to establish justice, he started to be hated. He started to become the outcast. He lost a lot. And that's really the price of establishing justice. When you look around, you see so much injustice in our communities, in our country, around the corner and around the globe. If you really want to live up to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to be upholding to justice, we should be willing to be uncomfortable. And that's how the Prophet ﷺ, he chose what is right over what's easy. The history of this country is rampant with injustice against the indigenous people through slavery and Jim Crow and segregation, and today discrimination against minorities and people of color, and especially against African Americans. Now you say, what does it have to do with our subject today? It has to do a lot. If you want to fight injustice outside, you really have to take care of the injustice within yourselves. And I challenge the Muslim community. I challenge Muslim families. I challenge Muslim organizations. I challenge mosques and Islamic centers and schools to eliminate the injustice and discrimination within our communities against each other. And especially to fight the injustice against African Americans within our communities. And recognize the contributions of African Americans in this country on Islam, on the Muslim community. You and I would not be here. I and I will not be here unless it is for the sacrifices and pain and suffering and contributions of African American Muslims, brothers and sisters. And if we want to recognize this, we really have to be inclusive at all levels. Brothers and sisters, if we talk about eliminating injustice in our communities, it is really to live it and to practice it and protect it and to be sincere about it. Islam does not believe in tokenism or show off. People do not want you to hear for them to hear you talking about Islam and how beautiful Islam is. People will tell you, show me your faith. Show me your faith in action. When I walk into your spaces, do I see diversity? Do I see injustice? If there's injustice, what are you doing about it? When you establish justice at home, around the dinner table at home, in your circles of influence, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will enable you to be an advocate of justice for all outside. When you take care of business at home, you will be the true embodiment of justice, and you will have the credibility to establish justice around the world. And finally, there are many ways of establishing justice. The Prophet ﷺ did it all. But during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, as we reflect on his legacy, there was no structured system of government around him. It was a tribal system. Today there is a structured way, structured racism, structured injustice, but also there are structures to undo the injustice. One of them is to be scientific, to be organized, to vocalize your opposition to injustice in all forms. Justice is so rampant in our society today, but also the powerful and the privileged ones are almost untouchable in our society. Do we have the courage to stand up against them? And again, as I leave, justice is not convenience. It is an uncomfortable and inconvenient subject. You have to be willing to stand up. And it is not only about courage, by the way. Courage, you will be surprised, is the minimum requirement to establish justice.